Hello everyone and welcome to a new video, and a very different video as well. Usually I make sewing videos for the costumes that I make. You might have seen my Coraline inspired costume, who knows. But what you might not know is that I actually do a lot of research beforehand, not just the actual costume that I'm going to make and all the fabrics and blah blah blah. But I usually end up down the rabbit hole of whatever costume I'm sewing, whether it's from a TV show, a film, or a book. Research is one of my many other hobbies, and I figured I'd share what I found out about Coraline with you. And, I figured it'd just be fun. I found out a hell of a lot, like loads, so much that I might even do more than one video on it in case this one gets too long. I started my channel to share my passion, all the progress of my sewing, and to see what I do in that project, and it meant that I got to video edit. So I figured why not include the research that I found out. It's another passion and I get to do more video editing for it. But enough about why I'm doing this, let's get on with it, because this is about Coraline. Now I thought for this video I would talk about the differences between the book and the film. But first I figured I should maybe tell you about the outline of the book. So the book is about Coraline Jones, a little girl who has just moved into a new old house. Do you know what I mean? The house is old, but it's new to her. Anyway, the house has been split into two apartments, so Coraline has two neighbours, which they're a bit mad in my opinion. Downstairs is Miss Spink and Misforcible and their millions of dogs. And above Coraline is an old man called Mr. Bobo who is training a circus full of mice, so, that's normal. Her eccentric new neighbours all call her Caroline, even though she always insists her name is Coraline. She finds a doorway to an other world where she meets different versions of the people in her life. And her only companion is a black cat who can go between the two worlds, except when he's in the other world he can talk, which is awesome. He's definitely my favourite character. Anyway, so by the end of it, she has to battle the other mother from the other world, aka the Beldam, in order to save her parents, who the Beldam kidnapped because she wanted Coraline to stay in the other world forever with her, and sew buttons into her eyes. Yep, very creepy. Anyway, I think that about covers it, so let's get on to the differences between the book and the film. Their personalities. In the film version, Coraline is a sassy and sarcastic little girl who is constantly rolling her eyes at the adults around her, which in my opinion is kind of understandable because some of the things they come out with, yep, I'll probably be doing the same thing, especially with the neighbours. It's not until she loses her parents and has to battle the Beldam for them that she truly starts to appreciate her life, despite thinking it was very dull beforehand. On the other hand, Coraline from the book is much kinder and she is always sure to be polite to her neighbours. Coraline from the film is apparently more relatable for kids, according to the critics. However, I have to disagree with this. The reason I disagree is because Coraline in the book seems perfectly compatible with everything around her. She's always surrounded by adults, so surely that means that she should be more mature like any other only child like her. But maybe she's too perfect, who knows? The Coraline in the film is much more bratty, but perhaps that's good because it means it's all that more satisfying to see her development throughout the film. On the other hand, she does portray her cat friend by lobbing him at the Beldam, which, isn't exactly nice, so perhaps she didn't grow all that much considering he helped her through the other world, but, whatever. She doesn't always make the smartest decisions, but then again, she is a kid, they have to learn from their mistakes. Her adventurous spirit might be a little bit too much, however I think Gaiman portrays this very well in the book because she has a healthy dose of skepticism with her, which kind of draws her back a little bit. I think that's what the film got wrong by changing this characteristic of Coraline. Her parents. Her parents are more hands-off in the film, however neither parents in the book or the film are negligent. They're just super busy. I'm sure many adults can relate to this with full-time jobs, running errands, moving to a new house, which is apparently the most stressful thing to do, and then having a family. It's just a lot to handle, so With Coraline being an only child, she does sometimes feel lonely. But at least it allowed her creativity to grow. As her parents, I can imagine this would be difficult to juggle. So all of this means that Coraline, in both the book and the film, is often left to their own devices. This does nurture her creativity and imagination at least. But like I said, people notice that in the film, Coraline's parents seem to be even more hands-off. They tend to ignore her a lot of the time and just seem indifferent to whatever she's saying, which isn't very nice considering all she wants is the company.
I almost fell down a well yesterday, Mom.
Uh-huh.
I would have died.
That's nice. Coraline, I don't have time for you right now.
Write that down. List everything that's blue. Just let me work.
Hey, Mom! Where does this door go?
I'm really, really busy. Will you stop pestering me if I do this for you? We made a deal. Zip it.
Coraline's skepticism. Coraline in the book is a lot more astute than film Coraline. They both yearn for adventure, but Coraline from the film accepts it way more easier than book Coraline, who is skeptical right away. Film Coraline finds that she is having too much fun to be skeptical straight away, which, you know, being in another world, that's not strange at all. Coraline in the book scrutinises the other world far more, and she doesn't let the other mother's false sense of security fool her. Perhaps the film Coraline is actually more realistic, as she's just a kid. Plenty of kids would love what the other mother would be offering them and probably jump at the chance of getting it. Both Coralines are shown to learn lessons, but we'll look at morals in a different video. Both Coralines do get freaked out when the whole sewing buttons into your eyes is introduced. You know, even film Coraline knows that that's odd.
You could stay here forever, if you want to.
Really?
Sure, we'll sing and play games, and Mother will cook your favorite meals.
There's one tiny little thing we need to do. For you, our little doll. Though you might make me jealous.
No way! You're not sewing buttons in my eyes!
YB. There's no YB in the book, so many readers of the Coraline book got a little annoyed by the addition of the character YB in the film version. Many have guessed that the reason he was put in there was to attract more male viewers, which, yeah, I have to agree with as well. In the film, he helped Coraline escape from the other mother, which has terrible consequences for him. Personally, I think the character of YB was added not only to prolong the film, but to offer up a few comical moments.
Dang! Check out Slugzilla!
Ew!
And also, it does give her a friend. What I didn't like about him was that by having him try to save her, it took away from her independent personality. In the book, all she has is a few cryptic messages from the Black Cat, and that's it. She's on her own. But with YB added to the mix, that is slightly taken away. On the other hand, with YB turning up at the end of the film to try and save Coraline and failing miserably, kind of backtracks on the point I made, because Selick still wanted Coraline to be the hero of her own movie. However, Gaiman was quoted saying, "I was uncomfortable with feeling like YB had rescued Coraline at the end. She has to rescue herself. So it's just a matter of opinion, I guess. Also, on the topic of YB, his grandmother is added to the mix, and they tie her in by using the little ghost girl from the other world. Apparently, she is YB's grandmother's twin. The dialogue. As with any adaptation from the book to the film, things change with the dialogue. If you just slapped whatever was in the book onto a film, it'd probably sound a bit strange. But this section is more to do with the voice of the characters. For example, Coraline's polite manners and inner voice isn't the same in the book as it is in the film. They make her less mature, which translates easily from the action she is shown to do in the film. But she isn't the only person whose dialogue is different. Most of what the other mother says is different, and quite a few other characters, which is a shame because there's some fantastic quotes in the book which aren't included in the film. One of the main differences is the nameless black cat, who is far more snarky in the book, and I so wish they'd put that in the film because I absolutely loved it. Keith David voices the cat brilliantly in the film, but it's a shame he doesn't get to say the things like humans don't know what they want and whatnot like that. That would have been great. Little differences. There are lots of tiny differences in the characters, but you know, when they all add up, still lots of differences, so I'm going to mention a few of them. Coraline is naturally English, like Gaiman in the book, but this isn't the case for the film because American actress Dakota Fanning voices her. Appearance-wise, the cat's eyes are green instead of blue. Coraline's hair is black in the book and blue in the film, which I kind of liked. I think it would have been even cooler if she had black hair, but then when she went into the other world it turned blue, because it can't have just been me as a kid who really wanted to dye her hair a funky colour. The second I got the chance I dyed my hair bright red, and I haven't stopped since. Well, you know, the pandemic is kind of screwing it up, but it will be bright red again one day. Coraline also talks to herself a lot in the book, which is perhaps another reason why YB was added in the film, so she'd have someone to talk to. The door was regular sized in the book, which you would expect, but they changed this for the film so it was smaller and covered in wallpaper. Apparently this was done so it'd be less daunting and more inviting for a curious little girl like Coraline. Oh, and I forgot to mention something else about the other mother. She isn't as perfect in the film as she is in the book. In the film, she's picture perfect, just like Coraline's real mum, except with button eyes. But in the book, she is described as having long, pale fingers and being taller and skinnier. So in the book, she couldn't quite transform into the perfect mother for Coraline. Coraline hates it when you mispronounce her name. While film Coraline only gets mildly annoyed when others pronounce her name Caroline.
До свидания, Caroline.
Coraline.
Oh, how nice to see you, Caroline. Would you like to come in? We're playing cards.
Still Coraline, Miss Spink.
Miriam, put the kettle on!
Book Coraline gets far more annoyed, and I love it. You may think, why? Your name's easy to say. But you know what? Some people are too lazy and they automatically nickname me Meg. It's like, excuse me? Did you ask my permission to do that? Don't get me wrong, loads of my friends and family do that, but you have to earn that. Anyway, that was completely off track, sorry. But basically, she hates the mispronunciation of her name, and that's the point. The other mother even mentions it to Caroline. She says, nothing's changed. You'll go home, you'll be bored, you'll be ignored. No one will listen to you, really listen to you. You're too clever and too quiet for them to understand. They don't even get your name right. The corridor. The gateway to the other world in the film is for a strangely lit tunnel, and it's awesome. I think it's such good graphics, and this is probably why they did it, because it's completely different in the book. In the book, it is literally just a dark corridor. Gaiman writes, Coraline took a deep breath and stepped into the darkness, where strange voices whispered and distant winds howled. She became certain that there was something in the dark behind her, something very old and very slow. Also, when returning from the other world to get to her parents, it changed and the corridor seemingly moved and seemed alive. Gaiman wrote that Coraline knew that if she fell in that corridor she might never get up again. Whatever that corridor was old by far than the other mother. I thought perhaps the other mother was the one who controlled the corridor, which surely makes a little bit of sense. An ancient creature that is older and scarier than the other mother? No thank you. Can you imagine that being animated in the film? No wonder it wanted to be toned down for kids viewing it. Another passage that Gaiman wrote in the book made it even more creepier. It seemed to her that the hallway went on for a longer distance than anything could possibly go. The wall she was touching felt warm and yielding now, and, she realised, it felt as if it was covered in a fine, downy fur. It moved as if it was taking a breath. She snatched her hand away from it. Winds howled in the dark. She was scared she would bump into something, and she put her hand out for the wall once more. This time when she touched it, it felt hot and wet, as if she had put her hand in somebody's mouth, and she pulled it back with a small wail. The Other Mother. The Other Mother is way scarier in the book. The other mother in the film, who is voiced by Terry Hatcher, is scary enough to give you nightmares. But Neil Gaiman is famous for being scary by not telling us certain things, or telling us just enough that it makes us shiver. Or at least that's me anyway. For example, when Coraline asks the other mother to make her a promise, the other mother swears on her mum's grave. Coraline asks if her mum even had a grave, to which the other mother replied, "Oh yes, I put her in there myself, and when I found her trying to crawl out, I put her back." Another scary example is the Bedlam's blood. Near the end of Coraline, the black cat is thrown at the other mother so she can try to escape. In the book, the cat made a deep ululating yowl and sank its teeth into the other mother's cheek. She was flailing at it. Blood ran from the cuts on her white face. Not red blood, but a deep, tarry black stuff. And further on the attack, it, the black cat, hissed and swiped its scalpel-sharp claws at the other mother's face in one wild rake which left black ooze trickling from several gashes on the other mother's nose. In the book, I have already mentioned how Coraline is sceptical of the other mother, and I've also mentioned the appearance of the other mother. Gaiman describes her like this. She looked a little like Coraline's mother, only her skin was white as paper, only she was taller and thinner, only her fingers were too long and they never stopped moving, and her dark red fingernails were curved and sharp, and then she turned around. Her eyes were big black buttons. The other mother in the film is pretty much the same as Coraline's mum, except for the big black button eyes. It was said that the film creators wanted to draw out the length of the other mother's slow transformation to her true self. Therefore, throughout the film, we see her slowly transform into the monstrous form that she is known for. Coraline calls the police. After Coraline finds out her parents are missing and the Bedlam has kidnapped them and trapped them in a mirror, they write a message saying "help us." Coraline then realises she's going to have to go back to the other world to save them. However, in the book, Coraline first decides that she should call the police. They obviously think this is a joke and urge her to go back to sleep. The basement scene with the other father. Most of the scenes that feature dangerous situations in Coraline are different from the book to the film. The basement scene in the book where Coraline has to blind the other father and quietly escape so he can't hear her, which is freaky as hell. Gaiman wrote, Coraline made a noise, a sound of revulsion and horror, and, as if it had heard her and awakened, the thing began to sit up. Coraline stood there frozen. The thing turned its head until both its black button eyes were pointed straight at her. A mouth opened in the mouthless face, strands of pale stuff sticked to the lips, and a voice that no longer even faintly resembled her father's whispered, "Coraline." This scene is replaced in the film by the less scary but still creepy other father in the garden sitting on the back of a praying mantis.
sorry. So sorry, Mother, making me. Don't wanna hurt you.
The other father tells Coraline to run in the book because the beldam wants me to hurt you, to keep you here forever. She is pushing me so hard to hurt you. I cannot fight her. There is a theory about the other father from fans, but I will have to tell you that in another video, and I think it's very interestingly linked to this scene. The rats. In the book, the mice become rats in the other world with red eyes and sharp teeth. The night that Coraline's mum shows her that there is nothing but a brick wall behind the locked door, Coraline is falling asleep, but then she hears a strange noise. I wonder what that is. She gets out of bed to look, because of course she did. So Coraline is afraid, yet she goes after it anyway. This either shows bravery or stupidity. I know I certainly wouldn't get out of bed. I'd just scream for my mum. And I'm 21. Apparently she spots a spider-like thing scuttling along the floor to the drawing room. She runs after it and turns the light on. What does she see? Why, the door is cracked open. I wonder how that happened. Coraline is clearly just too fascinated by the fact that the door had opened by itself. Maybe the house has the Force. There has to be a Star Wars joke in there somewhere, right? She goes back to bed and dreams of the rats singing an ominous song.
We are small, but we are many. We are many, but we are small. We were here before you rose. We will be here for when you fall.
Well, that's not terrifying. They even sing a creepier song near the end of the book while she's trying to find a soul in the other world in Mr. Bobo's apartment/circus.
We have eyes and we have noses. We have tails and we have teeth. You'll all get what you deserves when we rise from underneath.
In the film, one mouse runs from underneath Coraline's bed and leads her out of her room to the drawing room. The film doesn't have the super creepy rhymes from the mice, because I'm sure that thing would have given kids nightmares. The other Mr. Bobo. The odd man upstairs is called Mr. Bobo in the book, unlike in the film where his name is Mr. Babinski. Another difference is that Mr. Bobo is raising mice instead of rats in the book, which then change later on when in the other world. He is really creepy in the other world, even being described as hungry by Gaiman in the book. Mr. Bobo materialises in Coraline's doorway after the mice have given their creepy rhyme in the other world. Go away, old man. Where's the pepper spray when you need it? He asks Coraline to come upstairs with him for a little visit, which Coraline immediately says no to. Well done, a sensible decision for once. Gaiman wrote, there was something hungry in the old man's button eyes that made Coraline feel uncomfortable. Coraline could hear the rats whispering to each other, although she could not tell what they were saying. She was not certain that she wanted to know what they were saying. The other Miss Spink and Misforcible. I'm a magician, you know, change my clothes and my makeup. And the date. Yeah, I'm just lazy. I stopped filming and now I'm back and carrying on with this list. So, with that being said, we are on to the other Miss Spink and Misforcible, I believe. In the film, the other Miss Spink and other Misforcible's performance includes a stunt in which they swing from trapezes, pick Coraline up, swing her through the air and dive into a tiny bucket of water. Then they form a human tower by balancing on top of one another with Coraline at the top. While the theatre and the ladies' act appears in the books, it's definitely much darker. Instead of the trapeze, the women do a knife throwing stunt with Coraline at the centre of it. They bring Coraline up as a volunteer, place her in front of a target and Miss Spink blindfolds her, while Misforcible throws a dagger at the top of her head to try and pop the balloon. Of course it works, but the underlying dark, scary tones in the book definitely make it a hard thing to imagine when it's like,
oh my god, she's just gonna get a dagger through her head.
In the book, it says that Coraline held her breath and squeezed her fingers into 2 tight fists. Luckily, she doesn't get her head chopped off or nothing. Misforcible does pop the balloon above her head and she wins a box of chocolates. I think perhaps for the film they changed this act because the trapeze was a little bit more fast-paced of an act and more visually exciting, but I'm not entirely sure. Another difference between the book and the film is at the end where Coraline is trying to retrieve the souls from the other mother. In the film, Coraline finds a big sweetie wrapper in the middle of the stage where the theatre is, with Miss Spink and Misforcible inside with a soul that's been hidden. Their dogs have also been turned into bat creatures. In the book, however, it is a lot grosser. I wish it was a sweet. Instead, the soul is found in a greyish-white sack that resembles a spider's nest, and it's described as being twice the size of Coraline, and it's stuck to the back wall like a slug. Gaiman certainly knows how to put a disgusting visual image in your head, doesn't he? He writes, "Inside the sack was something that looked like a person, but a person with 2 heads, with twice as many arms and legs as it should have. The creature in the sack seemed horribly unformed and unfinished, as if 2 plastine people had been warmed and rolled together, squished and pressed into one thing. Coraline has to reach her hand into the sticky, clinging whiteness of the stuff that clung to her skin and clothes like a spiderweb clings, like white cotton candy. And of course, she's trying not to wake these things up in the sack. That goes really well." The dog usher refers to all the other children the beldam has trapped. In both the book and film, Coraline enters the theatre and discovers an audience of dogs. Unlike in the film, in the book, a dog approaches Coraline and asks to see her ticket, saying, "I haven't got all day, you know. You can't watch the show without a ticket." And when Coraline tells the dog that she doesn't have one, he says, "Another one. Come in here, bold as anything. Where's your ticket? Haven't got one. I don't know. Come on then." This is a foreshadowing moment that not many people pick up on in the book, but he's obviously referring to the other children the beldam has trapped in the world. Of course, Coraline doesn't realise what he's on about at this time, but knowing the rest of the story, it makes this conversation pretty creepy. The endings are different. Many fans find the ending of the book much more satisfying than the film, including myself. In the book, Coraline already knows the other mother's hand has made it into the world with her, so she sets up a trap using the well by setting out a tea party with her dolls, and the key was placed in the middle of it to trap the hand by falling down the well when it jumps on to get the key. This is another example of how brave Coraline is, and it's only days after her experience with the beldam. How is she so patient? Wasn't she terrified that that hand was stalking her to try and get the key that she had? In the book, Gaiman described Coraline's reaction to seeing the hand in her world, saying, "Coraline's mouth dropped open in horror and she stepped out of the way as the thing clicked and scuttled past her and out of the house, running crab-like on its too many tapping, clicking, scurrying feet. 5-footed, crimson-nailed, the colour of bone. It was the other mother's right hand." In the film version, Wybie helped Coraline get rid of the hand once she's finally figured out it had followed her into her world. This might have been more exciting than waiting a few days to carry out a more elaborate plan, but I guess that translates well into film, but I still think Gaiman's book version is far more fascinating. So, these are all the differences I found out between the book and film version of Coraline, and I love both of them. Did I miss any? I know I probably did, but I really enjoyed all this researching and watching Coraline like a million times to try figuring out some of the differences. In fact, I've got so many references for research, I doubt I'll be able to fit them all in the description below, but I guess I can try, and it was really fun to do. I hope you enjoyed it. In the next part of my Coraline research, I'm going to focus on the facts of the book and the film, like the behind the scenes stuff, that kind of thing. Thank you for watching this video. I do have a Facebook and Instagram page, but they're mainly based on the costumes I make. However, I'm always excited to chat about researching and other things from different fandoms because of my geeky disposition. And, you know, if you do like my costumes, then I bet you'll like my page because I post there and I do work in progresses. And yeah, it's fun over there. You should check me out. All the links are below. Anyway, thanks for watching again. Bye!